Let's look at politics and Donald Trump's first few months. It's only been 3 months, which is incredible, and he's signed 112 executive orders in that time, according to the Federal Register. So that's the most at this point in a presidency in 100 years. The pace that he's delivering is absolutely extraordinary. What's your assessment of his second term?
So first for the executive orders, I think the reason that Donald Trump has to use executive orders right now is because even though Republicans have control of the House and of the Senate, most of them are feckless. They are spineless. They have been in power for plenty of years. They've had control of all three, main branches, or all two main branches, and both the House and the Senate, and they've done nothing, right? So Donald Trump is not wasting any time to see if a Republican-led Congress can get the job done. I mean, they're still fighting over a budget right now. There's plenty of legislation that they're not going to get able to be or get through because there's some fractures in the party. Put that aside, I am very pleased with Donald Trump's second term. I think he is doing what he would not have been able to do had he had 2 consecutive terms. Donald Trump knows that the system is designed against him and the American people, and he's not going to try and please the other side when he sees how they treated him.
Well, we're still getting a lot of BS on mainstream media and why Donald Trump won the election, because according to this Princeton University professor on MSNBC, Donald Trump won because Americans are a bunch of racists.
We chose a felon who is more interested in loyalty, who's more interested in retribution, who's more interested in grift than in democracy. And we chose a felon because we didn't want to elect a black woman.
When will this narrative stop, and when will people try to understand why 78 million Americans voted for Donald Trump and no, it's not because they're racist?
Yeah, there's 3 big takeaways from this clip. The first one is what you just mentioned. Americans didn't not vote for Kamala because she was a woman and a woman of color. We voted for her because she was incompetent and a very unsuccessful vice president. The second point is that the reason that Donald Trump is a felon, how can Americans vote for him? Most Americans see that conviction for what it was. That was lawfare. That was a result of a sham trial that was led by left-wing activists in New York. The Department of Justice, the Southern District of New York, they declined to bring those charges. So they knew that this was all politicized, so that doesn't hold any weight. Last but not least, American education institutions are not worth the money that you pay for them. This is a Princeton professor. He is indoctrinating his students. There's more out there like him. So I think this is a wake-up call to parents and young students. Don't waste your money on these universities because you're not getting more bang for your buck here.
Well, to that point, I'm not sure how this Princeton professor is going to feel about the Trump administration's funding cut to Princeton. The Department of Commerce is cutting $4 million in funding related to climate research for Princeton University. Last financial year, Princeton received $455 million in federal funding, so it's going to be okay. But the department said the administration's goal in terminating these funds will save US taxpayer dollars. And the Commerce Department also said that this agreement had been promoting exaggerated and implausible climate threats, contributing to climate anxiety. And we have seen so much of that over the years. It's been completely severe and hysterical. Are you pleased to see these cuts?
I am, and I would like to see a lot more. I don't think that the government should be funding really any institutions unless it's for science. And I'm not talking about left-wing's definition of science. I'm talking about legitimate medical advancements to help the entire world. That being said, all of the money we spend on climate research, all the people who go into climate research, at the end of the day, no matter how much money we spend trying to make America more, climate friendly or teach people about climate change, unless China and India are brought to heel with the pollution that they put out, nothing we do here will matter. We can cut our emissions down to completely zero. We can be 100% green. It will not matter because China does not follow the same practices that we do and that other Western countries do.
Well said. Well, speaking of climate, Snow White, Disney's Snow White is getting slammed, not just for being woke and ruining a beautiful fairy tale, but the left are now upset because Disney's remake of Snow White produced more carbon emissions than the most recent Fast and Furious film, according to a report by The Guardian. According to an analysis of the Disney sets Snow White and The Little Mermaid, that produced more pollution than any other Disney film made in the UK since 2019. Brianna, I just have to laugh reading this. It's agreed certainly now on all sides that Snow White has been a complete disaster.
It is, and I'm kind of happy to see it because the lead actress has been really insufferable for quite a while. And I think this is also the hypocrisy of Hollywood. You know, they preach down to the average middle American. How dare you drive your truck around when we're trying to save the climate and you have Snow White with all this emission. You have Taylor Swift flying her private jet around. All of these people, it is rules for thee, but not for me.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what else has been a disaster. Michelle Obama's podcast. It has been a massive flop. Her new podcast has been ranked 34th on Spotify's podcast charts just weeks after her first episode alongside her brother, Craig Robinson, called IMO. Now, the first episode had just 300,000 views. The second had less, 200,000 views. You know, the left want to see a Joe Rogan for the left, and it's not going to be Michelle Obama. That they're trying. People clearly don't want to listen to her.
Yeah, the reason that Republicans, especially Donald Trump, were so successful with podcasts wasn't just because they were simply doing podcasts, which was important, but it's because of the ideas that they were talking about on these podcasts. The entire country shifted right this past election. Michelle Obama has not shifted right. She's not shifted with the country. So she doesn't appeal to voters. The other problem is the Obamas at one point in American history, they were cultural trendsetters. They had some kind of grip on the American people. They don't have that anymore. And I think Michelle Obama is realizing that now with these low viewers, that maybe she shouldn't have waded into the podcast world because nobody cares.
Yeah, well said. Brianna Lyman, elections correspondent at the Federalist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.